A lot of beginners make the mistake of talking too much. The best way I've found to sell these AI services is not by being the one talking. It's by taking what I call the doctor approach. When you go to the doctor, they don't just hand out medicine the moment you come in the door. The first thing they do is that they ask you a bunch of questions, like where does it hurt? How long has it been hurting? And then they try to diagnose what's wrong. You want to take the same approach when you are selling. And the way you do that is that you only talk 20% of the time, and they should talk 80% of the time. And when you talk, it should mainly be questions. And when they talk, they should answer your questions. And here's why that works so well. When you're the one asking the questions, you're the one leading the conversation. And one thing is that you mention why your service is valuable. An even better thing is when the client themselves mention why your service is valuable. When you get people to say themselves that they need something, they convince themselves way better. And the way to do that is by asking questions. Let me give you an example. If someone has, let's say, only a couple of reviews on Google Maps, you can then ask a question like, okay, what do you think happened when a customer compares you to your competitor? Your competitor has 150 reviews. I can see it right here. You only have 5 reviews and one of them is a 3-star review. Who do you think your client is going to go with? They're going to say, well, based on this only, they're probably going to go with that client. Do you see what we do there? We get them to mention themselves that they have a problem. And when we take this doctor approach, it becomes a much stronger sell. And it doesn't even feel like selling. You're just saying, well, what do you think happens when this and this and this in your current situation? They mention a problem. And then it makes it much easier later in the call to say, well, I actually have a solution to your problem. That's the entire point of the call. It's to position a problem that they actually do have. If someone doesn't have a lot of reviews on Google, they have a problem that's hurting their business. And then positioning you as the solution. That way you don't need to convince them. You don't need to be overly salesy or talk a bunch. You're literally just asking good questions. And by asking good questions, you control the conversation. You can steer it in any way that you want. And that leads me to the second rule, which is that you need some structure on your calls. And the structure that I like to use is initially just these doctor questions. Initially just asking if they even have a problem. And what you'll run into sometimes, let's say that you are providing more Google reviews with automation, and you run into someone that already has 500 reviews and are on top of everyone else. They probably don't need that specific service. You might sell them another service, but you don't want to sell something to someone that doesn't actually need your service. That's unethical. So the structure that I like to use is 1, ask a bunch of good questions that positions a pain. Then 2, tell them that, well, we can take this pain and we might have a solution. Let's see if it even makes sense. And then you can show a demo, or you can explain, well, we can actually do this to fix this problem. And 3 is that you then explain further about this solution and say, well, the price of this solution is, and only when they've seen the solution, when they've seen the value that you can provide, that's when you mention the price. And that's when you shut up. They now get themselves to decide, okay, this pain that I have in this solution right here, is this worth it? Or is it not worth it? And what will usually happen is that they will then have some kind of objections, and those come at the end. Objections are usually like questions. Well, what happens if we try this for a month and it doesn't work? Or, well, what happens with my current website if we're changing it over? How would I do that? It's basically just questions from their side that show some kind of concern. So what you then have to do is just answer those questions in a good way, and then make sure that that concern is squashed. And then at the end, that's when you close. That is the structure that I like to use, where it doesn't really feel like a sales call at all. This is what you should do. Let me show you what you then shouldn't do. A lot of beginners, they make the mistake of basically just hopping in call and just yapping. So a lot of beginners' structure look like this. They just explain their product. And usually they basically just explain features, and then they ask, do you want to buy? After they've done that, right? So what does this look like? This is maybe if you create a slideshow that's just about your product. This is what we do, and you just sit there and go through it. The problem with this approach is that you don't position a pain. You don't ask good questions. You don't make sure that they actually need your service. You basically let them make the decision themselves if, okay, do I need this or do I not need this? And if you have a boring slideshow, chances are that they're just going to zone out. All of a sudden they hear a $2,000 price point and they say no. All right. So don't do this. Do this structure instead, right? Questions first that position a pain. This is questions like, well, your competitor has way more Google reviews than you. They have a good website as well. You have almost no reviews. You have a trash website. What do you think happens? Well, don't say trash website. Say your website is quite old. Who do you think your client is going to go with at just like a first impression? You want to say themselves, well, in this scenario, they're probably going to go with my competitor. You position a pain that hurts their business. Then you position your solution. Well, we can install this AI that reaches out after every single job and gets you Google reviews. And we can also install this website. I can build it in 2 days, which looks way better than what you currently have. Do you think that would help increase your first impressions with new customers? Again, you even position that as a question to make sure that they understand the solution is worth the price. Great. Great that you now understand this. So many beginners mess up right here. You don't want to do that. But you now understand this, which is good. Great. So now you're starting to get